Welcome, everybody, to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, Monday, October the 20th, 2025, let me see, it is 6:32. I apologize for the delay, but we're trying to check on a few things before we get started. We have a roll call, and we do have an agenda of 5 commissioners. 2 commissioners are out. Commissioner Haskin and Commissioner McDonald. And so now I'll turn it over and we'll have the introduction of agenda and format of hearing to staff.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. First, we will have a call to order. Then we will have a staff report. Then the applicant will have an opportunity to have a presentation. Then public comments will be open in support or opposition. If you're speaking, please state your name and address for the record, and please be brief and to the point within a 3-minute time frame. Afterwards, the commission and staff will have their discussion, and then the commission will vote to recommend approval as presented, approval with conditions, denial of the request, or to table the item. City Council's consideration of the conditional use permit request will be on the Monday, November 10th, 2025 meeting. Looking at tonight's consent agenda, we have excused absences along with approval of the regular meeting minutes from the October 6th meeting, as well as 2 or 3 plats. Did we get that confirmation? Okay. We have 2 plats on the consent agenda, a replat as well as a final plat. And then tonight on new business, we have 1 residential replat along with a conditional use permit for a food store in the neighborhood service district, as well as a cluster plan, cluster development plan, excuse me. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, one question for clarification. Is staff pulling the Massey Oaks, or do we need to pull Massey Oaks? We need to? Okay. Anyone wishing to remove a consent agenda item?
Move that we approve the consent agenda with the removal of the Massey Oaks, item number E, off consent agenda.
If you need a second, Commissioner Fortes, second.
All right. Thank you. That brings us to what's remaining on the consent agenda. Is there any questions? Seeing no questions, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in, now we had a motion to approve, right? Okay. And all those in favor, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. That takes us into items removed from the consent agenda. We have 1 that was removed that was dealing with Massey Oaks. We have a conflict of 2 of the commissioners here, and if they both have a conflict and have to recuse themselves, we don't have enough to vote it in, so it'll have to be done at the next P&Z meeting. All right, that takes us on to new business.
Chair.
Excuse me, Chair, if I may.
Yes.
It's Lawrence all the way back here. I would just encourage you to table that item to the end of the agenda as we're waiting for confirmation as to whether or not there's a conflict.
Okay.
So it might be able to come back depending on when you get your notices.
Okay, do we need to have a motion for it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can I have a motion in a second?
I'll make that motion to table the last item on our agenda. That's the Massey Oak.
Commissioner Fortes, second.
Okay, thank y'all. All right, now we're moving on to new business. Consideration and possible action, RPL 2025-0393, residential replat of McGinnis subdivision, Lot 1, Block 2, located at 2419 Creek Ridge Drive, Pearland, Texas. Can I have a motion and a second for approval?
Motion for approval.
Commissioner Henrik, second.
Okay, that opens it up for staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Bauer, and I'll be presenting the staff report tonight. So as mentioned, the subject property is at 2419 Creek Ridge Drive. It's within the single-family residential 1 zoning district, as you can see on the map on the screen. And it's mostly surrounded by that same R1 zoning. It's kind of that yellow to the northeast, northwest, and the southeast. And then to the southwest is, can't see it because it's kind of far away, but that's our single-family residential 2. The main difference is it has a red polka dot with some yellow, but across McGinnis Drive is the only area that's a different zoning than the R1. Just to kind of go over some of the area regulations for the R1 zoning district, there's a minimum lot area of 8,800 square feet. There's a minimum lot width for lots, and that's zoning at 80 feet. And then the minimum lot depth is at 90 feet. And so with a residential replat, there are notice requirements per the Unified Development Code, which include newspaper notice, property owner notices, and a sign on the property. And to date, staff has received 24 written comments against, 1 phone call against, and 1 phone call asking for more information on the request. And the main concern of those letters of opposition was the acreage of the property going below 1 acre. So here we get a look at the plat for the property. And on the next slide, we're going to zoom in a little closer because that's just too far away. So they're looking to subdivide the 1.025 acre lot into 2 lots, one having 0.5124 acres and the other having 0.5125, so a little over an acre in size. And then the minima, or not the lot width at the frontage along McGinnis Drive is proposed to be approximately 156 feet for each lot. And then the lot depth is at 142 feet. And so staff recommends approval of the replat for the following reasons. The proposed plat conforms to the requirements for replats without vacation found in section 3.1.7.2 of the Unified Development Code. And secondly, the proposed subdivision meets those minimum lot requirements for the R1 district, which is the zoning of the property. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you, Patrick. Applicant's presentation. State your name and address for the record, please.
For 19 Creek Ridge Drive. I'm going to go ahead and show a few images here to provide clarity on our plans here. I'm accompanied by my twin brother, Luis Morales, and our project manager from Windrose, David Hernandez. Awesome. So just wanted to provide a little bit of clarity of sort of the intention we have with this property. I just wanted to make it clear we're not developers, we're not investors, we're just 2 families trying to build a single family home, single story on each of those lots. One being with my twin brother and also his wife, and then the other house being mine and my wife's as well with my children. And really, we're requesting a replat so we can build 2 primary homes. This is actually a personal project that we're going for. And I also would like to thank the public for the comments that we received in advance. One of the main reasons that when we were driving around looking for an empty lot, we really enjoyed the character and the beauty of this neighborhood, and we definitely plan to keep it that way. We don't want to turn this neighborhood into something that it is not. And one of the reasons that we're carefully navigating the architectural phase of our project is to keep it consistent with the beauty and the image that the neighborhood currently has today. So here in the image here, we have Creek Ridge running along left and right, and we have McGinnis running from bottom to top here. And what we're really shooting for here is we want to continue the consistency of the existing homes by having one of the houses facing the exact same direction as the rest of the houses on Creek Ridge Drive. So when you're driving, you're looking at houses facing you on your left and right. We're going to keep it the exact same way to keep it consistent. And then on this other side, along McGinnis, we're proposing to have the other house face McGinnis as well to be consistent with the rest of the houses on McGinnis, just to keep it, we don't want to have, a skinny frontage, both houses on Creek Ridge or anything like that. We definitely want to keep it as consistent with the neighborhood as much as possible. And again, we're not developers or investors. We're not planning to sell or flip this or make a quick buck. This is somewhere we actually plan to, call our forever home. We're actually computer engineers. We work remotely. We don't expect much traffic to be added here. We spend most of the time at home. We just respectfully ask for approval of replat. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is David Hernandez. I'm the applicant with Windrose. The only thing I wanted to add, we're not requesting anything outside of the ordinary or anything that hasn't been done. There is a lot down Creek Ridge that has been subdivided as well. Not exactly. I think it was done. I have the file here, but I'm not exactly. I couldn't find the year of when it was done. I think it was. Yeah, it was when it was done back in 1958, I believe, 56. So again, we're not trying to set precedent for anything that has not previously already been done with this subdivision. Thank you.
Okay, is that your presentation?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, then y'all can have a seat, and if we have any questions later on, we'll call you back up to the
Thank you.
podium. All right, being that that's the applicant's presentation, persons wishing to speak for or against this item? Okay, I don't see anybody moving. I'm going to ask another time, anyone wishing to speak for or against this item? We'll ask one more time. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing no one, we're going to turn it over to the commissioners to discuss it.
Chair and staff, just to make sure I understand our role and our function here. This is a replat and a residential replat. And if they meet all of the guidelines of that residential plat, I'm going to forget the word, but there's a word there where we as a board or individuals on this board, ministerial, thank you. I always thought it was perfunctory. I don't know the definition of either one of those two words. They're too big for me. But my understanding is, I know that we got a lot of protests in and we're supposed to consider those, but if they've met all of the city criteria, we're supposed to vote for. Is that?
That is correct. You are the assigned by the charter, y'all are assigned to approve plats. And so if the plat meets all the requirements that the city has adopted in the UDC, then you shall approve the plat.
Then we should ask the question, have they met all of those?
Yes, yeah, minimum lot width, lot depth, and minimum lot area are all met with the proposed plat as shown.
Well, I have nothing further to add then.
Chairman, let me piggyback off of that, just for our knowledge. Understand this plat meets the criteria of the UDA or UDC. However, there's the little caveat that it's made application underneath the ministerial. What sets a parcel apart from another parcel that can or cannot be applied for from ministerial? And if that's the case, you know, we have right at 30 individuals in the area that are against this. And as a commissioner, my hands are tied that I can't vote against this. And I'd like for legal to explain to us as a body of what the criteria of a ministerial and how was this applied ministerial and not just as a standard residential plat.
When it comes to platting, cities are preempted by state law as far as granting commissions such as yourselves the ability to have discretion in approving plats or disapproving plats. State law requires if you wish to conditionally approve or if you wish to disapprove a plat, you have to give a written explanation to the applicant and you have to cite to statutes or ordinances as the basis for that disapproval or the basis for that conditional approval. In this situation, there appear to be no bases for disapproval or for a conditional approval. And so Chapter 212 of the Local Government Code requires approval of the plat, and failure to do so could potentially subject the city to liability, in fact, under state law.
Mr. Eccles, if I could add on to that, it's Lawrence over here. I would just suggest that all plats, all final plats, would be a ministerial duty for the P&Z to approve if it meets the city's and the state's requirements. So that's not different in this case. This case is different because we actually have published and personal notice that went out to members of the community in accordance with the Unified Development Code. Most plats do not have that requirement. This plat is different because it's a residential replat, and the Unified Development Code requires that additional notice for residential replats. State law has a similar provision, but the city actually gives more notice than what state law requires. The state law says if it's a residential replat and there is a variance or special exception, then you have the public hearing with that notice. There is no variance or special exception for this plat, and that's what makes it ministerial. If there was a variance or a special exception that was being sought, they were trying to reduce the minimum lot size for residential replat, then that becomes discretionary, and you can take into account all the things that the public had said, because now it's your discretion. So that's what makes this unique in this instance. It's not a common issue, but anytime it comes up, I think that we've seen that frustration from some members of the public because they put in their comments, but their comments aren't based on the approval criteria. It might be based on many other criteria. All valid criteria are all valid comments, but it doesn't override your duty as outlined in the city's code and in state law.
Thank you, legal. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Lawrence. This was something that was brought to my attention, and I'm wanting to make sure that the public, that the residents, the 20 some odd oppositions to the approval, I wanted on public record that this is the reason why we as a commission had to go against that many individuals, property owners, neighbors, that we really, according to state statute, according to our UDC, this is something that this body must approve because there is no basis for us not to approve it. So with that, I'll close my comments.
Okay, to be honest with you, I was really upset in the beginning. I'm still upset, but for the people that live over there on Creek Ridge, but it makes it a little bit more palatable that you're going to be building your home. So, you know, it's you're going to be living in you're going to be living, and hopefully you can become good neighbors, because you're going to have a bunch of them that are upset. So that's all I've got to say, and let's call for the vote. All those in favor, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. It passes 5-0. That takes us to the next item on the agenda, consideration of possible action, conditional use permit application CUP 2025-0432. A request of Hammond El-Asadi, applicant on behalf of 2011 Property Inc., owner, for approval of conditional use permit for food store supermarket use within the Neighborhood Services District on 0.8199 acres of land located at the northwest corner of Yost Boulevard and Broadway Street, Pearland, Texas. Can I have a motion and a second for approval?
Commissioner Fuertes, motion for approval.
Commissioner Henrik, second.
Okay, having a motion and a second, that takes us to staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. As we just read into the record, tonight's request is a proposed 5,400 square foot specialty grocery store with the associated parking and landscaping. This is a conditional use permit, as food store or supermarket use within the Neighborhood Services District requires a conditional use permit for the use. In this case, it is more of a food store than a supermarket, as you would think of, for example, like a Kroger or something, an H-E-B. That would be more of a supermarket, as the footprint of this is significantly less. We've received 19 written comments in support and 1 phone call in support of the request. This is a aerial and zoning map of the proposed site here at the corner of Yost and Broadway. To the north, you see the yellow with red spots that we just mentioned in the previous report. This is that R2 zoning district, and those are single-family residences. To the east, across Yost Boulevard, is a fire station, and then across Broadway, you have a gas station, restaurant, and then to the west, which is on the same side of Broadway as them, is a carpet and flooring retail center. The future land use map, which is part of our comprehensive plan, identifies this area as commercial center along the whole frontage of Broadway here, which has the intent for single or multi-tenant commercial centers located at major intersections, typically adjacent to that traditional residential neighborhood. So this meets that intent. This property was annexed into the city of Pearland in 1960, was platted in 1972 as a portion of the Vi-Villa subdivision, which is the subdivision that is directly behind it. It was identified as a commercial lot at that time as well. In September of 2024, a portion of the right-of-way was conveyed to the site. And then in September of this year, so last month, variance VAZ 2025-0337 was approved to reduce the required 30-foot setback for parking and maneuvering areas within the corridor overlay district, with the condition that no windows or doors be placed on the rear elevation, which is that side that's closest to the residential use. I'm bringing back up just the zoning map so you can kind of see where the old property line or plat line runs through the property right here. This is that portion of the right-of-way that was conveyed to them. So if you've been looking at our interactive map, you're not seeing the full outline of the property as it currently exists unless you've got that updated. That was included in your packet, so you should have been able to see it there. They've provided a site plan for us, so they've got their fire lane, their connection to the adjacent property, should that ever be redeveloped on the site next door, as well as the parking, and then the buffer to the adjacent properties behind, with the landscaping that will still be in the area between the parking area / drive aisle maneuvering area here and Broadway. This here is the area which allowed through that variance, the reduction of the 30-foot setback per the corridor overlay district. So it allowed for the reduction of the setback, but not of the buffering or screening requirement for the landscaping there. The applicant has provided us with some renderings of the site. They will need to meet the corridor overlay district's transparency and articulation requirements. And while I have not seen the actual dimensions on this plan, it appears that they will be doing so with the amount that they have provided here. I'm happy to flip back to any of these images as we move forward through the application. With the consideration of a conditional use permit, we go to our comprehensive plan and the future land use map. This is consistent with that. The thoroughfare plan, it does require the formal approval by TxDOT for the driveway location and a variance from our city engineer for the spacing requirement of the driveway. As noted in your staff report, it should be noted that there is not a driveway location that would be able to meet the spacing requirement in this location because of the configuration of the lot. So regardless of where they proposed it on the site, a variance from our city engineer would be required for a driveway on this site. And then TxDOT, the applicant has indicated that they had verbal approval from that in their narrative. However, we will need to obviously see the formal approval of that driveway location from TxDOT. The Unified Development Code, when they bring in, should this CUP be approved, they will need to show that they're able to meet all of the requirements for the neighborhood services and corridor overlay district, as well as any conditions placed on it by this conditional use permit and the variance when they propose their building permits. And then the utilities, they do have access to both water and sewer at the site. The review criteria found in section 2234A of our Unified Development Code, which speaks specifically to these conditional use permits. We have gone through those and they are more thoroughly outlined in our staff report. However, we have found that they do meet all of the criteria for the conditional use permit. With it meeting all of those conditions, or I'm sorry, with it meeting all of those criteria and the consistency with the comprehensive plan, including that future land use map and thoroughfare plan, staff does recommend approval of the request with the following condition. That condition is that the exterior lights shall be located so as not to produce any direct illumination across the bounding property line. All outside lights shall be comprised of a light source and reflector or shield so that acting together the spillover is controlled and no light will be produced across the property line. Basically making sure that that light zeroes out at the property line to help mitigate any adverse effects that it could potentially spill into the residential properties. So in staff report.
Thank you. Applicant wishing to make a presentation?
I will need some assistance.
State your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Janice Wagner. Address is 22910 Wren Lane, Tomball, Texas. Hit sign in. Perfect. Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Janice Wagner. I am with Alter Group, architect for the project. Just want to give you a little bit of an introduction. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time kind of reiterating what was just stated, but just kind of give you an idea of what it is we're proposing and what would go in that location. So we're proposing Olive Tree Mediterranean Market. This is a specialty market, Mediterranean goods and foods. So kind of some of the things I'm going to go over here just quickly, just location, some of the inspiration photos that we were using to kind of get started, just quickly kind of go over site, the request, and the services offered. So I think we are all familiar with where the location is now. Some of the inspiration photos, there's a specialty market here in Houston that's really well known. It's called Phoenicia. It's a huge space. We're not proposing anything near that size. The size of this location would just be a little over 5,000 square feet, but we'll pull from a lot of the different concepts that you see here. So, and try and provide a level of services that's similar. Here's the site plan. Some of kind of the key takeaways from this, 36% of the site is landscaped. The building footprint is 5,400 square feet. We're only providing 27 parking spaces for the facility. We're gonna provide 21 trees total and over 100 shrubs. In looking at some of the neighboring properties, it would appear that either grandfathered or going through a similar CUP procedure, there's other uses that are next to our proposed use that appear to have also maybe asked for a conditional use. So there's restaurants, there's daycare, there's gas stations, there's dance and art centers and things of that nature. So we're looking at a couple different areas in the store, looking at like fresh bread and bakery. Gonna add a meat market, a produce and frozen goods section, and basically specialty imported foods throughout. So in the bakery, kind of looking for pita bread, baklava, some other, yummy goods. Meat market would bring in some specialty meats, ethically sourced, halal meat, butchery. So, some really nice features that you just don't find here in Pearland, I think, right now. It'll also have our little produce market and frozen products. And then just dry goods, a lot of specialty imported foods. So just kind of showing some of these concept images again. If you have any questions.
No, ma'am. At this time, we can't dialogue, but if we have any questions, we'll call you back up.
That's good.
Okay, if that's the staff end of the applicant's presentation, we'll be calling persons wishing to speak for or against. I have first speaker, Mrs. Linda, and I'm sorry, is it Fertilla? Fertilla? Fertitta? Okay. Oh, like Tillman Fertitta. State your name and address for the record, please.
Linda Fertitta, 2101 Rolling Roof Street, Pearland, Texas. I am the house in the corner right behind where y'all wanting to build this. And I would like to know who's going to be responsible for a lot of the damages this will do to our neighborhood, such as parking. I already have people that park right in front of my house and in my driveway when they're waiting for whatever. I even walked up to a parent waiting for a school bus that stops. He wasn't the regular parent, but there is a safety factor that involves. And if I have an emergency or my neighbor has an emergency and we're blocked in, where are we gonna go? Who's responsible? Or how about the fact of the trash and all the food that is going to be hauled and put in the trash container right next to our fence? Where is all these rats and bugs going to go? In our homes where we sleep and we have our children. The flooding issue. When you put concrete Where is that water going to go? We haven't flooded in our neighborhood for over 40 years, from what I understand. We're going to start flooding. So what is that going to do to our insurance rates? Who's going to be responsible for that? The majority of our neighborhood is retired people that have worked all their lives and have a home that they can be proud of. Everybody's got their own crosses to bear, so to speak, but these people and myself need to have some answers. Food is not a good one for everything that is going to affect us. I'm going to sell my home. Our homes in our neighborhood are decreasing by over $20,000 on the value, but our taxes don't decrease. It's just our value of our homes. And the first meeting we had on this, there was an analysis done by someone. What do we do? Who's going to make up the difference? And this is right next to my property. My next door neighbor, it's going to affect hers, and she's tired of fighting. She is going to sell. We cannot. Now, people, when I was growing up, my mother said, treat others as you want to be treated. Y'all want to buy my house and live like that? I'll be more than happy to sell it to y'all for its value.
Okay, ma'am, your time has expired, so
Okay.
please wrap it up. Thank you, ma'am. Next is William Schultz. State your name and go to the podium, sir. State your name and address for the record. And you'll have 3 minutes once you introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. I'm William Schultz. Pleased to meet you. I live on 2113 Rolling Roof. I've been a resident of Pearland for since 72. I'm not that old yet. I worked for Baker Hughes for 40 years. I've been retired for 5. Did a lot of crazy safety things in my life, and this scares me. If you don't mind, on that map there, could you give me the blueprint with the road and the parking places and all that? Okay, if you look at on the left, looking at that on the right-hand side, is that going to be right on Yost? Is there going to be an entrance right on Yost onto that 5?
Sir, we can't dialogue right now. We can
Okay,
take your
okay.
concerns
But
and then we'll
I'm just
ask
trying
them.
to say, my wife and me will chill in the backyard sometimes, and you'll hear, "Err," and you're wondering if the cars are going to impact something or something. Half the time it doesn't, half the time it does, it seems like. There's just too much, what I'm trying to say, there's just too much in that one spot with the fire station, and like Linda was saying, the kids getting off the bus. If somebody puts a camera there just for a couple days, you'll see what I'm talking about. And adding this to the mix, I just got a real bad feeling about this. It's just, it's a gut feeling. It's something like that just doesn't belong there. And I heard it's supposed to be a 9 to 9 are the open and closing hours. The other residents aren't that bad because of the other places because they're like 9 to 5. But this is a big facility, and it's going to be a lot of attention, people distraction, whether they're driving or they're walking or whatever. It's already bad enough. Thank God for the fire department. Mom had a heart problem, and they got out to save her. And but anyway, thank you, Pearland Fire Department and policemen too. And Yost Road, I don't know if y'all noticed, nobody does a speed limit on that road. If anything, they need to put speed bumps on that thing instead of approve something like this, in my opinion. And to put it there, there's so many other places in town you can build something like this. And they were talking about like Gringos and all that. I know what they're talking about, but they're not near residences. Sitco, there's not a house really close to there. Gringos, they bought those houses and stuff. I'm with her. If you don't buy my house, you can buy my house and use it for parking. But anyway, there's nothing close to the daycare. There's no homes close to that. You know, in the older parts of Pearland, even, what do you call it, by, used to be TGNY, that's how long I've been here, and that strip center, those homes aren't even close to that. And there's plenty of parking, but what gets me, the first meeting we were here, they have a 30-foot, which is nice, you know, but now they're trying to reduce to what, 6 feet? I mean, I wouldn't want to be living like Linda lives right there. I wouldn't want to be living with something looking like 2 stories high, 6 feet from my house, for the back of my house. And how they going to get this stuff in? And there's just so many variables. If it were me, I know what that property sold for because I looked at it. I don't need the money. I would have bought it if it would have came to this. I ain't got nothing else to say.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, that's, anyone else wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing no one moving in that direction, I'm going to ask one more time. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, we're going to open it to to commission's discussion.
Okay. I have a question for architect engineering. Can you explain how you're going to meet the TxDOT and Pearland detention requirements to convey your stormwater to FM 518?
I'm actually not with the civil team, so I don't want to speak for them. They're looking into that right now.
Okay, is somebody here that can speak to that?
Not on civil.
Well,
we'll remind the commission that building issues
Yeah.
will be taken care of during the permit process, and they'll need to meet city standard codes. This is more about the use, so let's make
yeah,
sure to focus.
I'm just trying to help give answers to some of the complaints. I mean, obviously there are design criteria. They're very strict on this corner that they'll have to meet. Their stormwater cannot come to any of the tracks on Yost Boulevard. There's no entrance in or out of Yost Boulevard. I think that if TxDOT didn't allow this driveway, there is going to be an attempt to get access through the neighbor, I assume, or you will have access through the neighbor commercial
We
track?
already have preliminary approval
Okay.
of the location.
So there would never be a need to have access off Yost, which is good because that means no cars should want to go off
No.
Yost to get in there.
In the event this location were not to work out, it would not go off of Yoast. There's no consideration for it coming off of Yoast. I don't know that TxDOT would even allow it off of Yoast.
Yeah.
So it would just move further down.
And then can you confirm how far away the trash would be from the neighbor? Look, I think I've
So
seen a mention of 30.
There's a 25-foot buffer behind the building, and the trash dumpster and enclosure are completely outside of that 25-foot buffer.
Okay, very good. And then, let me see. The actual, I love the idea of the Mediterranean. I think that what you presented looks good, but we are voting for the dirt, a neighborhood market, and my only hesitation is if that wasn't Mediterranean, if we were to lock it in for that, that'd be one thing, but my only hesitation is that it could turn into potentially a store that sold, I don't know, this is a question for the city, could they turn it into a neighborhood market where they were allowed to sell vape products? Or would that require an additional?
The use that's being proposed is not for a vape store. So the conditional use permit is for a food store / supermarket and not for a different use.
So they cannot sell those products in that category.
I believe that Martin is double checking my numbers here, but I believe that that is the case, correct? There are requirements specific to vape or smoke shops, and Katja looks like she's about to add something to that.
Vape, smoke shop, tobacco, or head shops are not permitted in the neighborhood service district.
Okay, even if it's supermarket or whatever category. Okay, thank you for verifying that. That's it. That's all I had.
Wow. I want to congratulate you on a very eye-appealing presentation. I do like the name, the Olive Tree, rather than just as your rendition was specialty market. It put some personality into the grocery. In speaking with this intersection, you have a coffee shop catty-cornered that we have a slab and some plumbing, and who knows when that's going to be finished. Right directly across the street, there's Baytown Seafood and Steak. Next to that is a gas station, which next to that is Gringo's. Then on your side of Broadway, you have insurance and a flooring, if my memory serves me right, flooring store. So there is commercial all around this piece of property. To me, I'm not one that would want to go GB with it, but NS, I'm good with neighborhood services. My only, if I have any reservations at all, it's another entrance exit on Broadway, and with Gringo's, the gas station, the intersection, soon to be whenever the coffee shop, there'll be a lot of congestion there. On your egress to the property, I would feel much better if TxDOT or you get a TIA and you have a right-hand exit only, because I think if you try to exit left to go east on Broadway, I believe we're looking at more congestion. So that's my only reservation, but overall, good product, good presentation, and you have my vote with a little reservation.
Just to add to that, with the proximity of the left turn lanes, it's very likely that's going to be a right in, right out. So we will request a TIA worksheet as well.
Thank you. Good presentation. I appreciate the citizens coming out, voicing their concerns. I guess my question, really from just a knowledge standpoint, there's a drive to the, I'm going to say south of, as this drawing is oriented, I don't think it's south, I think it's going to be west of, the building itself. Is that for cross-access?
Commissioner, are you speaking about this here?
Correct.
Yes, at this time, that will not go through to the neighboring parcel. However, with the platting process, cross-access to other properties must be provided. So should that other site ever redevelop is the tense I was looking for, that could turn into the access point. So at this time, it is a dead end there, which will serve for loading or whatever they need it to function as.
Thank you. So to understand correctly, because I'm not sure if everyone gets this, and I want to make sure I get it. This land is already zoned neighborhood services, correct?
Yes.
This is a CUP only because supermarket slash grocery store slash market, whatever we're calling this exactly. That use has a CUP needed, approval needed, but there's a right for it in the NS zoning if we approve the CUP. But it could be any other use in that CUP, in that neighborhood services category. So this is going, I haven't been drinking tonight, I promise, just water. I've been gone too long. I guess I just want to make the point, former Commissioner Ashley Boswell would always start out with, this is going to be something. This town is developing. We have small parcels like this remaining. I think we see next a 25-acre parcel. There's not a lot of those left. It's smaller parcels like this. And I have been of the opinion, and I've said it many times here, that these are almost infill spaces. They're not designed very well for the use. They're making it work. The architects did a great job trying to make this work. I've said many times, we as a board should be flexible with this type use, flexible with this type of property. It's challenging, the depth. Usually you think of every shopping center in town, you put the shopping center and the parking as between the main street and the use. Here it's to the side and it's limited at 20-something spaces. So it's a challenging piece. Anyways, and to be consistent, I'll be flexible in my thoughts. I do sympathize with the neighbors. I definitely do sympathize with them. Unfortunately, this property is going to be something. If it's not this use, it's going to be something else. The town is just growing up and the land is too valuable here, and the traffic count along both Yost and FM 518 or Broadway is too strong for it not to be some commercial use. So.
Yes, I'd like to thank the citizens that come out. I was looking at this. One of the things that they've proposed here, they're going to have a masonry wall between the residents and the property, the full length of the property. It appears that they're trying to be good neighbors. They've already put things into effect to make sure that they don't have overspillage of lights over into your backyards and such. They've had a 25-foot buffer there to try to cut down on any type of noise problem. Of course, I was out there today looking at the property, and I saw the first house in the neighborhood was for sale. I noticed that there was a bunch of trees that are back there on those lots and stuff that help to buffer a lot of the noise and such from 518. I agree with Commissioner Fuentes. Something's going in there. I think that you've got somebody that's wanting to be a good neighbor. It may not be the thing that y'all want to see go in there, but as Mr. Schultz said, if he had known this, he'd have bought the property. Well, that's really the only recourse you have on something like this, is to go buy the property if you don't want it developed. Being that it's on Broadway, of all places, the notion that you could ever entertain that this wouldn't be developed at some time is mind-boggling to me. So that concludes my comments, and so I'm going to ask if we want to reconstruct the motion and the approval from Commissioner Fuentes and Henricks to include the condition.
If I could interrupt before you do that, I take full blame and responsibility for this. The process of allowing the person who made the motion to change that motion, as long as they did it and the person seconded it, while we've always understood the intent and thought that that facilitates the process, there are times that the conversation between the two things makes that confusing, especially from the staff perspective and from the minutes perspective. With that being said, I would encourage us to just follow Robert's rules. If you want to make a motion to amend to include staff recommendation, it will be a two-step process. But as I pass things on over to Katie, I want to make sure that we comply with Robert's rules accordingly and make it easier for the minutes.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. Can I have a motion and a second to amend the item then? The motion.
So moved.
Commissioner Henrik, second.
Okay. Being that we have an amended motion, I'd like to vote on the amendment. All those in favor, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign, carries 5-0. That takes us to the amended motion. Can I have all those in favor, sign by raising your right hand for the amended motion? All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, that carries 5-0. All right. Our last item for tonight in new business is consideration of possible action, CLU 2025-0435, cluster development plan to propose 81 single-family detached homes and 8 restricted reserves on 23.09 acres of land. Public hearing, a request of CE Engineering and Development Consultants, Inc., on behalf of owners Tommy Gwynn, Keith Byers, and Sherry Byers for the approval of a cluster plan at O'Day Road and Garden Road, creating 81 single-family lots and 8 restricted reserves on 23.09 acres of land within the within the single family residential R1 and Garden O'Day mixed use zoning district located at between O'Day Road and Garden Road, south of Brookside Road and north of McCard Road, Pearland, Texas. Can I have a motion and a second for approval?
Commissioner Henricks, I make a motion.
Commissioner Fortes, second.
All right, that takes us to staff report.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Tonight's request is a cluster development plan for, as was mentioned, 81 single-family lots with 8 restricted reserves. It includes properties within the R1 and Garden O'Day mixed-use zoning districts and proposes a reduction of lot widths for both of those districts and a reduction in lot area for the R1 zoned lots. You'll see this a little clearer when I pull up a site plan. So as you can see, the zoning for this is split between the, I'm gonna call it cuter tonight, area, which is the Garden O'Day mixed use, and then that yellow, the bright yellow, which is the R1 zoning district. So there's primarily that Garden O'Day up here on the north with a small bit on the west, and then this clump here is all that R1 zoning district. It is surrounded by single-family residences. There's some undeveloped land, and then this parcel right here is a contractor's office. So it is to the north of some of it and to the west of some of it. The future land use map, which is a portion of our comp plan, includes this area with that was Garden O'Day mixed use to be that commercial, the mixed use center place type, and the portion that was zoned R1, they've identified that as traditional residential. This property was annexed into the city in 1997. The site is not platted and is undeveloped. So it has very little history to propose for you tonight. This is a exhibit from their cluster development plan document. I have drawn the red lines and labeled the red on here so that you could see it a little bit more clearly. However, this portion here along Garden is that Garden O'Day mixed use. In the center here is where that R1 zoning is, and then this portion here is the Garden O'Day mixed use as well. It's a little hard to see on this screen. You can see the lines go different directions, but it's blue for the Garden O'Day, and then the red, which goes, I guess, top left to bottom right, is the R1 zoning district. They've proposed their lots to, for the R1 zone district, so this red portion here. With that, the R1 district requires 8,800 square feet per lot. They're proposing 6,435 as the minimum lot size. The minimum lot width in the R1 is 80. They're proposing 55. And then the minimum lot depth in the R1 is 90 feet, but they are proposing a minimum lot depth of 117 feet. So that actually is increasing and making these a little bit deeper lots. The maximum lot coverage is staying at the 60%, which is a requirement of the ordinance. For the Garden O'Day mixed use, this is where it gets a little bit more tricky. So Garden O'Day mixed use has not been included in the cluster development plan regulations for our Unified Development Code. However, a Unified Development Code administrator determination is that this would default to the R3 zoning district, which has the same size lots as that Garden O'Day, as well as direction has been given to us to move this forward with the next version of Unified Development Code amendments to include this Garden O'Day mixed use into something that could potentially have the same. So when you look at a cluster plan, you're making sure that the density is for the base of the cluster plan matches the density for what your, the lot size. There's a density provided for that you can go up to with the cluster plans for the zoning districts based on that. And the determination has been made that in this case, since the lot size is the same for Garden O'Day mixed use as it is for R3, you'll see those used fairly interchangeably because we default back to that because it's what we have criteria to address. With that, both Garden O'Day and R3 have a requirement of 6,000 square foot lot. They're proposing a 6,050 square foot lot, so it's actually increasing by just a powder room, essentially. The maximum lot width for both Garden O'Day and the R3 zoning district is 60 feet, so that's the same. They're proposing 55, so reducing it by 5 feet. The minimum lot depth for Garden O'Day is 100. For R3, it's 90, but they are proposing 110. So if our Garden O'Day mixed use was permitted, then it would still meet, it would exceed what is provided. And then the lot coverage is the same across the board at 60%, which is fairly standard for our residential zoning districts. They have provided, in addition to the reductions that they're requesting, amenities which may not be able to be provided for should they go with the typical lot size. This is the landscape reserves that you're looking at. I've screen grabbed all of them and put them on one page. So you have the Reserve H, which is a landscaped reserve essentially. It's up against Garden Road. You can see it would be here on the far left side of your screen. The landscape reserve for the dog park area is what I'm calling this one, which is Reserve E. Has a fence that runs along the front of it and along the rear. And then the park area, which is internal, as well as an amenitized detention area here. In the full packet that you were provided before tonight's meeting, it breaks down exactly what amenities will be included in those areas. The applicant will be here to speak on behalf of it more thoroughly / answer any questions that you have in regards to the staff report. But in summary, they're doing privacy fencing along the entire edge of the property, so it'll go internal. You can see it in these images kind of behind this to help any of the neighbors, especially behind these amenity areas where it could get more busy than you'd see in a typical vacant parcel. Since this is not a vacant parcel, it's an activated space. They've provided for a dog park, which includes metal benches and pet waste stations. They're keeping the existing trees within the dog park area, so there are some existing trees here that are being retained. And then the open space F, which is going to have this pavilion area as well as a playground area, again, some benches, trash receptacles, etc. And then the detention area has a sidewalk that runs around the whole length of the pond, so you can walk in circles should you so choose, in addition to the sidewalks that already run through the development. So they'll put a fountain in the middle of that and have a little bit more of a pleasant experience in your detention area than you may if it was just a standardized pond. The review criteria for a cluster plan, the Planning and Zoning Commission is the final review authority on this, so tonight's vote is not a recommending vote to council, but rather an approval with conditions or denial of the application. With that, the review criteria for it are the comprehensive plan and future land use map. In this case, traditional residential place type is intended for these detached single-family homes, and it does meet the intent of that to a T. The mixed-use center place type is not exclusively intended for this residential use, but it does encourage a mixture of housing types. As we've seen on a bunch of applications that have come through, this Garden O'Day mixed use, because the Garden O'Day mixed use is identified as a mixed use area, while a lot of that area is residential, at this time, they're calling it as this mixed use center place type, which the language in that doesn't lean towards residential as much as it does towards the commercial. However, the intent was also to maintain some of the character of those areas which are already existing. It does meet the thoroughfare plan as well as the Unified Development Code. When it's developed, it will need to meet all other regulations that are in place for the Unified Development Code for those base zoning districts. So while it will allow for the reduction of the width and area in some of these cases, as well as maintaining the extended depth of these lots, it will allow for us to review those permits as normal residential permits that come through, as essentially it acts similar to a plat variance, where you're allowing for the deviation from the requirement of the plat to allow for that lot width or lot depth or lot size, but everything else is maintained. And then it does have access to water and sewer, and they'll need to show those uses and everything as they bring in their building permits. The criteria for our cluster development plan are found in section 2244 of our Unified Development Code, and they are listed on your screen. The first four are the standard development criteria, which are in 2244A, and it meets all of those. And then the last item is the section B of that same 2244 that indicates that the Planning and Zoning Commission or Council on Appeal may impose such conditions on approval of the cluster development plan as are necessary to assure the compatibility with the adjoining uses and neighborhood character. In this case, the applicant has worked very closely with staff to work through all of the comments that we had. I don't know exactly how many iterations this is, but they made their turnarounds quite quickly and did address all of the concerns that staff had from that initial submittal to today's presentation. And so with that, staff's analysis identifies, I've got a lot of words on the screen, so I'll summarize it to the best of my ability, that the depth of the lots in both the R1 and R3, which is also the GOMU district, would be permitted by right, and it is, and the area of the R3 portion exceeds that which would be allowed. They have proposed amenities that would not be able to be proposed if they had the same density within this area, and according to the future land use map, the narrower size lots proposed as a portion of this cluster plan do meet the intent of that traditional residential place type, and the amenities to enhance the area are very beneficial. And while it doesn't quite meet that mixed use center place type as read in the in the comprehensive plan, it does encourage a mixture of housing options and offering the ability to walk and work in a unified interconnected area. While there won't be working necessarily directly in this area, it does encourage that active living through a network of complete and walkable streets. So this would encourage that. And, oops, wrong way. With that, staff recommends approval of the requested cluster development plan CLU 2025-0435 with no conditions. That in staff's report.
Thank you for that report. Applicant presentation. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Fazil Lakhani. I am a resident of Sugarland. It's 14 Crown Grove Lane, Sugarland, Texas, 77498. Firstly, I would like to thank you all for taking the time to review our presentation today. The staff has been very kind to help us through the iterations like she mentioned. I would just like to, in the printout that was handed, if you would turn to page 2, kind of shows the plan and the site in more closely. And to pick up on, Commissioner Henry's point that these kind of pockets are left because the city has grown so fast, and we as developers are coming in and trying to make the best use of this parcel. Just south of that Reserve E is where the owner, Ms. Sherry, actually, she owns that property. And so, she is on board with us doing this development on the back. That's number one. The other thing that I would like to point out is that from a density perspective, we could have put 89 homes on this, but we respected the city's request and the engineers and all the other staff and reduced our density down to 81 homes, because clearly, as you can see in Reserve F, we could have put more homes, but we dedicated that space so that we could add a park, so on and so forth. And the lot is challenging. So, we had to work around where we said, okay, if we're asking for a reduction in width, we should give them more depth in return. And so we've done that, like where the requirement was 90 feet or 100, we've given 117 and 110 feet in length so that the lot is bigger. We foresee the homes to be close to $500,000. This will give access to the families that are looking forward. I mean, Pearland is a great place to live. This property is close to an elementary school. It's close to places of worship. There's a church walkable to it. There's a synagogue, there's a mosque. It's all within walking distance. So it will give access to families that want to buy an affordable home in Pearland that is walkable to this and get into Pearland schools. Of course, I mean, we all know that the estimated value when finished would be close to $40 million, which would add a significant tax revenue to the city as well. With that, like I said, we want to be fully respectful of the demands of the city, make sure we comply. I've developed over $75 million worth of projects in the city. The homes will be built by national home builders like K. Hovnanian Homes and Davidson Homes on this. They have a track record that speaks for themselves. So we're trying to build high quality homes here and not do anything that's going to jeopardize the image of the city. Again, I thank you all for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that brings us to persons wishing to speak for or against. Yeah, go ahead and sit down. If we have any questions, we'll get you back up. Okay, seeing no one moving in that direction, I'm going to ask one more time, anyone wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing no one moving in that direction, we're going to take it to commission's discussion. Henry, you want to start?
Well, once again, I'll say it again. This is one of those parcels that was, it's an infill. It's close to 25 acres, but you can see the shape of it and how it accesses O'Day Road quite thinly, makes it over with two separate types of zoning. It's a challenging piece. Y'all did a fantastic job. For full disclosure purposes, I looked at this property when it was listed, and I shook my head and said, "Man, that's a headache." But I did look at it, so I still have I wondered until this weekend when I did my studying for this, I wondered who either put it under contract or was going to proceed with it. So I like it. I have to say the lot size changes, the width shrinking to 55 feet, I don't have an issue at all with that. I mean, that's the marketplace in today's world. The depth going from 90 feet to 117 or 100, you know, if you'd have said 110, I would have been happy with that, but the property probably lays out to where that number made sense. And I can appreciate very much that that you've had to work with this, and you laid it out as well as you did. I don't have an issue with the lot width, and the lot depth, of course, was in the favor of the city. I very much also appreciate the report that staff gave tonight. It's very positive. It was just an all-around very good report. I appreciate that very much. I know you guys don't get a lot of credit, so I hope you accept that credit. The last thing, UDC lot sizes with the Garden O'Day mixed use. To me, this is a cluster development. We're absorbing it all into one. I really don't care what the Garden I shouldn't say it that way. I'm less worried about that because it would be difficult if you had the different zonings and tried to follow. And this fits in with other projects that are within Garden O'Day mixed use, right? I mean, there's other single-family developments, and I don't think this is an exception. This is more the standard. So, again, I appreciate staff. I'm sure you guys worked through a lot of challenges through the pre-development meeting. I'm sure the applicant went through a lot of challenges as well to make the numbers work. You're taking it from 89 to 81 lots, which doesn't sound like a lot to us. Big deal, it's 10%. But if you're selling these lots based on front footage and you have 8 less lots, that's at a cost. So very much appreciate you doing that. Yep. I've said enough. I'm getting signals.
Oh, yes, I actually, one of the things that we talk about is having I don't know that this is exactly like in the middle type living, but the house prices seems kind of high. But if the market tells you that's what they'll go for, then that's what they'll go for. But I don't have an issue with the layout and the attempt to use an infill lot and provide more homes on the ground for our residents. That's it.
Just a couple of questions. Love the layout. I love the parks. I love the dog park. On your detention retention, if that is a wet bottom, are you going to be putting some fountains in to keep from water stagnating?
So this is Chen with Sea Engineers. So just to answer the question, so for the detention design, what we wanted to do is to get a kind of white pond situation with a fountain in the middle. So it would have at least 4 to 5 feet depth underneath. So to solve the mosquito problems, but yeah, it would be a nice detention pond with the walkway and everything. I think it's a very good community amenity for the residents.
And I'm sure the way the storm system is designed is it'll sit right above the water level so that the water can flow and there shouldn't be any issues of flooding. If again, like I said, earlier we could have done 89 homes. When we went down to 81, we've also significantly increased the detention capacity of the community. So the larger lots, more detention is giving us more water capacity for this particular type of neighborhood. Then it's way below the threshold that would just get us by. Hope that answers your question.
It does, but just one comment that you may want to think about.
Yes, sir.
Another neighborhood, it went with 4 feet deep, and during no rain season, it was stocked. And when water goes and fish don't have water and oxygen, they die. When they die, there's a smell. So I would suggest maybe to take care of either hit some water depth where you can have some maintained water. The 4 feet, it may dry up in drought conditions, so that's a comment. The other question I have is, this property going to be a build for sale, or is it going to be build for rent?
It will be built for sale because the national home builders that we are teaming up with, they only do build for sale. And we've seen some of that in other parts of the city. We understand the concerns around build to rent, but the price point and the price that we're paying, Pure Land, as expensive as it's getting, it's hard for the build to rent numbers to make sense anymore. And so we're in the business of building homes for selling. Just other comments are that there will be an HOA and that would maintain, so the lake and just the beauty of the neighborhood would be factored into the maintenance cost. So something like drying up the lake would be mitigated by the maintenance of the community. So
Okay, thank you very much. No further questions.
Hey, Katie, quick question for you. I wrote down that you said landscaping reserves wouldn't be met. Did you mean if they met the minimums for the R1, like how they're not meeting the lot width and the lot area?
I'm sorry. If I said that, I may have misspoken. They are providing some landscape reserves in addition to the programmed reserves that we've spoken in depth about.
Okay.
So they are not meeting a requirement for landscaping.
Okay, perfect. So they're just not meeting two of the minimums on the R1, the lot width and the lot area.
Correct. So the lot width and lot area for the R1, and only the lot width by 5 feet for the GOMU district. Everything else will need to meet the Unified Development Code's requirements.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I think it was a really good presentation. I drove the property today. It's definitely an upgrade for the area over in that area. We're right there. You're butting right up next to Brookside. And, it looks like, it appears to me that y'all, even though I'm not a fan of 55-foot lots, I understand that that's the going lot size now in a lot of places. That's the reason why they make houses in other places. I can go buy somewhere else. But, Pearland is, to brag on Pearland a little bit, we are the number 3 city in the nation, number 1 in Texas. Yay. And y'all done a lot of development here in Pearland, and it's all been Class X, so I'm not going to have a problem with this. Anybody else got any last words? Okay, being none, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. 5-0 passes. That takes us to discussion items. City Council update.
So last week there was nothing from the previous P&Z, so there is no update this week. Oh, Massey. Let's bring Massey back potentially.
Oh, that's right. We got to bring Massey back. I'm glad somebody's better informed than I am. Okay. for just a second. All right, we're going to be able to bring back an item that was on our consent agenda, the Massey Oaks. There was questions of having a quorum. We do have one. So do I need to have a motion to approve this particular one, to bring it off the table? Okay. Can I have a motion and a second?
Since I pulled it off, I'll make the motion that we accept it now.
Commissioner Henrik, second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor, sign by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign, passes 4-0. Okay, bring Commissioner Ordino back in, please. Okay. Next P&Z meeting, regular meeting is November 3rd, 2025. Does anyone know if they have any reasons they may not be here? Okay, seeing none. That brings us to an adjournment. We adjourn this meeting at 7:59.